You know what I hate? Donald Trump asked in Freeland, Michigan, on Wednesday night. When these guys get on television, they say, pundits, you know, the great pundits that never did a thing in their whole lives, you know, we have two very unpopular candidates. We have Biden or we have Trump. These are very unpopular. Watched by a crowd of adoring fans in Make America Great Again, MAGA, regalia, against the backdrop of a plane marked, Trump, in giant gold letters, the former U.S. president protested a little too much, I'm not unpopular. Opinion polls disagree, showing Trump with a low approval rating thanks to voter concerns over his stance on abortion, his 4 criminal cases and the threat he poses to constitutional democracy. Fortunately for the Republican presidential nominee, Biden has job performance troubles of his own centered on inflation, immigration and his handling of the war in Gaza. Call it the resistible force against the movable object. 6 months out from one of the most consequential elections in American history, only a fool would bet with confidence on the outcome of the first presidential rematch in nearly 70 years. Larry Jacobs, director of the Center for the Study of Politics and Governance at the University of Minnesota, said, "It's almost impossible to imagine Biden winning when you start stacking up the case against him. The economy appears to be in decline with high inflation. You've got signs of the Democratic coalition fraying, including the extraordinary protests and arrests of youth on college campuses, the backlash among Arab Americans with regards to Gaza. You put that together and it's like, how could Biden win? And then you turn to Trump and it's, how could a candidate who's openly running on defying the will of voters win? It's just an incomprehensible set of choices. Typically, an election involves 2 new candidates or an incumbent versus a challenger, creating plenty of scope for fresh discoveries. But Biden, 81, and 77-year-old Trump are already the 2 oldest men ever to occupy the White House, the subjects of countless books, newspaper articles and TV documentaries. Most voters have already made up their minds about them, or think they have. However, a static election is playing out in an unstable landscape. British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan's aphorism, events, dear boy, events, on steroids. There are the aftershocks of a global pandemic that killed more than 1 million Americans. The January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol and the Supreme Court decision to end the constitutional right to abortion still reverberate. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza have provided an acid test of Biden's foreign policy expertise. Frank Luntz, a political consultant and pollster, said, "There's not going to be an October surprise, every week is an October surprise. We have to get used to the predictability of the unpredictability, and so it's very dangerous to prognosticate in this environment because things are changing so quickly." In the average of national polls, Trump leads Biden by about 1.5 percentage points, a decline for Biden of about 6 points from the day of the 2020 election, and Trump holds the edge in the swing states that will decide the all-important Electoral College. Worryingly for the president, surveys indicate that a significant minority of Black, Latino and Asian American voters are slipping away from him. Luntz said, strategically, Trump is being helped by the 3 groups that have moved towards him in the last 3 years: young African Americans in Georgia and North Carolina, Latino voters in Arizona and Nevada, Union voters in Pennsylvania, Michigan and Wisconsin. Biden is weaker, but Trump has the capability to sabotage his own campaign and he won't even know that he's doing it. That's not something Joe Biden will do. That's why it's so dangerous to say that Trump has the advantage because, in a single day, he can ruin it for himself. Polls suggest the economy remains the #1 issue for voters. The perennial question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago, could win the day. While the U.S. escaped a widely predicted recession and is growing faster than economists expected, inflation and the cost of essentials such as bread, eggs and petrol are weighing on voters. Biden pushed through massive economic stimulus and infrastructure spending packages to boost industrial output but has received little credit from voters so far. Polls suggest that voters believe they were better off during Trump's presidency even though data says otherwise.